So I decided to start revisiting webtoon stories that I enjoyed when I was younger and wanted to see why I like these certain stories now that I'm older. Since I first started reading webtoon, I think when I was in middle school or high school, I think I was 13, 14, and Eggnoid is my first victim. When Ran wakes up to a giant egg by her bed the morning after being rejected by her longtime crush, she has no idea what to do. To make things weirder, a handsome man, emerges out of the egg and starts calling her mom. As Ran and Eggy grow closer, she starts questioning their relationship. Is she really just his mom? So, just from now, we say, huh? He calling you mom. And you want to be more than a mom, potentially? Okay, so I'm going to read the first 10 chapters and see if this is actually good as I remember. So Rand finds out her neighbor and friend, Ophi, is dating another girl named Grace, which upsets her because she believed that Ophi was hers. She's been with him since they were little and believed that she would marry him. They went to school, home, ate, went to the movies together. But what was all that for if they aren't going to be together? What has Rand been to Ophi this whole time? A friend, a neighbor. Ophi tells Rand that he only does those things as a friend and neighbor and was only with her because she wanted it that way. This upsets Rand. She feels alone now that Ophi's gone, though, him dating someone doesn't mean that they can't be friends, but anyways, she cries in her room and boom, an egg appears in her room. And what's in this egg? A hot boy, of course. But wait, yeah, this boy thinks Rand is his mother. So Rand goes to sleep and wakes up thinking she had a dream about what happened last night. But it wasn't a dream because it actually happened, and she finds Eggy in the bed with her. She says this line: "He may be handsome, but this is dangerous and scary." As if his handsomeness could make a situation seem less dangerous and scary because he's hot. And yes, you should call the cops. Duh. Rand finds out that the reason she has the egg, which is called Eggnoid, is because she was lonely and the Eggnoid was a miracle for her. And now she's an adoptive parent and the Eggnoid is exactly like a regular human baby. So let's see whether or not that holds up to be true. So Rand ends up seeing Ophi with his girlfriend Grace and believes Ophi has forgotten about her, and I'm already annoyed. She decides to go shopping to go buy Eggnoid some clothes. So even though Rand blushes at Eggy, which is the name that she gave him, she acknowledges that he acts like a child or a baby, that he was born literally recently, but he doesn't look like one, which confuses her because he's handsome and looks like a model. While shopping, Eggy ends up disappearing, and when trying to find him, Rand runs into Ophi and Grace. Rand confronts Ophi, saying how she doesn't want to get in the way of his relationship, but why is he keeping his distance and not talking to her? And honestly, was that even what he was trying to do? I mean, I get the point if he didn't tell you that he was dating someone, but have you guys had a major friendship problem issue before you found out that he was dating? Because you just found out about his relationship yesterday. So aren't you jumping into conclusions that he's ignoring you because of his relationship? Ophi tells Rand that he doesn't want to be friends with her, or doesn't want to only be friends with her because she has no one besides him. And I actually don't see that as unreasonable. We haven't seen why Ophi has an issue with Rand, considering they've known each other since childhood. But if he's only been with Rand because she wanted it that way, then he may feel suffocated by their friendship. I'm not saying Rand has done particular tactics to make Ophi her friend, but whatever the case, let's see if he has more to say than, "I don't like being your only friend." Ophi's reason is complete bullshit. He doesn't want to be seen as just a friend because he has feelings for her, and him and Grace dating isn't even true. So you have feelings for a girl who has feelings for you too. Damn. I guess neither of you know how to read the signs the other is putting out. But fuck Ophi. He believes that making Rand believe that he's in a relationship, intentionally making her feel upset, will be a good thing. He needs to do this because it's all for her sakes. Yeah, okay. Anyways, with Rand being sad, it looks like Eggy can sense this and he runs to her. Still upset about the situation, they go home, and that felt weird to say because Eggy is, I don't know, an alien, humanoid stranger who calls her mom and impaired out of nowhere. But yeah, let's not call the cops. Let's buy and give him stuff and not say, let's go to my home, but let's go home. Am I nitpicking? At home, Rand gets mad at Eggy for repeatedly calling her mom, but she's just still mad at Ophi and appreciates Eggy for coming into her life. Ugh. Rand teaches Eggy how to properly dress, eat, read, and he's developing more words into his vocabulary. He doesn't call her mom anymore. That's nice. He is definitely attached to her because as she tries to leave the home to go to school, he follows behind, asking her not to leave. So I've been putting some comments on the screen, but for this chapter, I really decided to click on the comments and just read a little bit more on what people think. And I don't know, it's weird how some people are trying to justify this. Maybe I'm the only one who's seeing this as wrong. I mean, there are people in the comments who are also seeing it as wrong, but there's a lot more people who don't see it as wrong. Yes, Eggy isn't Rand's real child, and yes, she sees him as a child, so she knows better. But the thought that this baby sees this girl as his mother and in a span of some days or weeks will eventually become mentally mature enough and maybe around Rand's mental age is making it okay for romantic stuff to happen just feels wrong to me. You're taking care of this person with the mental capacity of a baby because initially he could only say mom. You teach him what he needs to which age him mentally, but if the time comes around when they become romantic, it's okay since he aged mentally and he already looks like he's a teenager. He hatched in front of her, calls her mom, and she teaches and takes care of him. No, I don't want that. Like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. Yes, I get it. She is not his real mother, but she's acting like a mother to me. Blood doesn't gotta make you a real mom. The Eggnoid literally tells her she is the adoptive parent. I understand she did not ask for this, but you're gonna be a parent, then potentially date them. There is no evidence that she wants to date him, but the comments are wanting this ship to sail. And this just brings me to another problem. How does this Eggnoid system truly work? Where did the Eggnoid come from? Who created it? Why? I know we're going to get that answer, but if Eggnoid came to help those who are lonely, do all Eggnoids appear to teenagers? Are they teenagers for anyone? Can anyone become an adoptive parent, even if you're younger than what your Eggnoid appears to be? You know, what if there's an alone 10-year-old who got an older teenager that called them mom or dad? If a middle-aged person get an Eggnoid, actually makes sense to me. Because if they had kids, the Eggnoid would already be around that age. But, like, what's up with the mom thing? I know because it was just born, but why not send the Eggnoid to them when they have matured? Why send a teenager with the mental capacity of a child? And despite what loneliness you have, you'll just get an Eggnoid that calls you mom? Ren was alone because she has no friends. Aren't there Eggnoids who are mentally and physically her age who were sent to be a friend? From what we see, Eggnoids are sent to lonely people to be adoptive parents. I understand that Rand reacts the way that she does because of how the Eggnoid looks. Because he doesn't look like a child. And she isn't acting in a disgusting way. But, you know, let's see how long that lasts. When Rand comes back home from school, Eggy shows her origami that he has done. Other than being innocent, Rand comments on how her heart flutters whenever Eggy shows his body by accident. Like taking off his shirt. Rand does say that she'll be the responsible one in this situation with her and Eggy because he is innocent and the naive one here. He obviously has a lot of love for Rand as he sees her as his mother, but will the love for this mom turn into a love for this girl as he mentally matures? Will Rand see him as a child and reciprocate those feelings? Will she see him in a romantic, sexual way? So we get a little backstory for Rand. I forgot to tell you guys that she does live alone and her parents died in a car accident where she was the only survivor. But she doesn't end up remembering much of it. Her parents left her a lot of money that her aunt controls, and she gets allowances every month. Rand is low on money but doesn't want to ask her aunt for money because she might get suspicious or might make her live with her grandmother, who is mad Rand survived and not her son. I really hate people like this. Instead of being happy that anyone survived a horrific accident, you wish one life was traded for another. It doesn't help that the grandmother thinks Rand is responsible for her son's death. And I, definitely would like to see this plot progress to really see, is it Rand's fault? Probably not. She is a child when this happened. But later on in class, we see how truly alone Rand is. Again, we're getting told she is a loner. She doesn't partner up with the people to do work, which is part of the assignment. She rather work alone. And she has no one other than Ulfi making her a loner. And I want to know what you guys think, because within this scene of her not wanting to partner up and this excuse that she gives to the teacher, which I think is justified, because social loathing does happen within group work. But I also see her actively not trying to get along with people. So every time she's mentioning that she is alone, she only has Ulfi. And with scenes like this, I understand that it's into the school year, so you might think that you can't make friends anymore. But I don't also see her actively trying. So to me, I believe that her loneliness, or at least part of her, the reason she is lonely, is attributed to her own self, that she is doing this to herself. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Because, as I said earlier, she's low on money. Rand ends up skipping lunch and Ulfi gives her food. And at this point, he is just toying with her because he treated Rand good here, worrying about her health, but told her he didn't want to be friends with her. That was the first 10 chapters, and honestly, the only thing compelling me forward to see if I'm going to read more is if any of my questions get answered. How is the story going to inevitably put these two together? I mean, are they even going to put them together? I did say earlier, I did read this as a kid, and there are some major plot points I remember vaguely that I wanted to clearly understand again to see if I could justify the relationship that won't still feel weird to me. But I don't want to say anything in terms that I could be wrong with what I remember. And I do want you guys to go ahead and read this on your own. Lastly, I wanted to try and remember why I found this webtoon good in the first place. Stories could be weird, but still good. So I want to see if Eggnoid kind of fits into that box. I was introduced to it by a friend. I remember reading weekly, chatting about it, and I never actually found issues with it back then that I do find now. I do remember finding it weird back then, but barely. I really wasn't thinking about it. I think I was just so consumed with, oh, romance, cute. Because, there's a lot that kids could be subjected to, and, you don't see any of that stuff as wrong until kind of later on affects your life. I read a lot as a kid, and with access to the internet, I found sites like Wattpad, fanfiction.net, WEBTOON, which aren't inherently, bad sites with bad stories, mostly, but there are story types that when reading a lot of it, you get desensitized on what's going on and how wrong that it could be because it's given to you as a harmless romantic fluff. Or, oh, this is obviously for adults, but I'm going to read it anyways. And, it doesn't matter if for example, the main character is possessive because it's romance and it's all okay. Kids are impressionable. I mean, they don't know anything. So there are a lot of stories, I didn't see as wrong or weird. Let me know if I should continue this story, because I could be overreacting about the mother-child relationship being weird. If you know, especially if they don't even end up together, considering their mental ages when they first meet. I will continue the story, but judging by your reactions, maybe I'll read it faster to come up with another video. Recommend me some good webtoons that can potentially make it on my end of the year list, or just some other weird, controversial, problematic stories that I can delve into. Put your suggestions down below. I've been your host, Jen. This has been Jen Star. Stay hopeful. Peace. Mwah.